So, it's 2026. AI can write pretty much anything you ask it to. But there's always a but, right? It often leaves behind this little digital fingerprint, this robotic feeling. That's where AI humanizers enter the chat, promising to give your text that missing human spark. But are they the real deal or just clever marketing? Well, in this explainer, we are going to find out. Hey, let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever used AI to write something, maybe for school or for work, and you read it back and it's just flat? Like all the facts are there, but it has absolutely zero personality. It sounds less like a person and more like a very boring, very literal machine. Yeah, you're not alone. And here is that promise, right on the screen. On the left, you've got that clunky, super basic AI-generated text. You know the type. And on the right, the so-called humanized version. The vocabulary's way better. The sentences have more flow. It's just better writing, plain and simple. This is the transformation these tools are selling. But how are they doing it? And the real question is, does it actually work when it matters most? Okay, so to really understand what these tools are trying to do, we have to get to the root of the problem. It's not just that AI writing sounds a little boring. The issue is that it's predictable. So predictable, in fact, that every AI model leaves behind these distinct mathematical fingerprints. Let's take a look at what they are. So, what even is an AI humanizer? You can see the definition here. It's software that rewrites AI text, but it's not just a fancy thesaurus that swaps out a few words. A good humanizer is supposed to completely change the text's DNA. It's supposed to mess with the rhythm, the flow, the word choices, all to make it sound like it came from a person, not a program. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. To understand how to humanize text, you first have to understand how the other side thinks. I'm talking about AI detectors. These programs could not care less about what your text means. They don't check your facts. No, they are programmed to be bloodhounds for two very specific mathematical patterns. The first pattern is called perplexity. Just think of it as a surprise-o-meter. AI is trained to pick the most obvious, most predictable next word. It's kind of like a cheesy pop song where you know exactly what the next lyric is going to be. That's low perplexity. But human writing, it's more like a jazz solo. It's full of unexpected word choices and surprising turns. That's high perplexity, and it's what detectors look for. And the second pattern is something called burstiness. This is all about rhythm. When you and I write, we mix it up, right? We use some long, flowing sentences, then a short, punchy one. That natural variation is high burstiness. AI, on the other hand, tends to write with the steady, monotonous beat of a metronome. Every sentence is about the same length, same structure. And that uniform rhythm is a massive red flag for detectors. So here's the bottom line, the most important thing to get. AI detectors are basically just math scanners. They're not reading your essay for its brilliant insights. They are hunting for low perplexity and low burstiness. Those two things are the digital fingerprints that just scream, a machine wrote this.
Which, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question. We know what these humanizers are supposed to do. They're supposed to scramble those predictable patterns. But do they actually pull it off? Especially when they're put to the test against the toughest, most advanced detectors out there?
Well, we dove into the data, and honestly, the answer is kind of shocking. Most of them don't just fail a little bit, they fail spectacularly, especially against the industry standard detectors that actual universities and companies use every single day. Okay, take a good look at this table. We took the exact same AI-written essay and ran it through 6 of the most popular humanizers out there. Now, I want you to focus on that first column, the Turnitin bypass rate. That's the big one, the one used by pretty much every university. And just look at those numbers, 15%. 38%, 50%, a total wipeout for almost all of them. But then you see that one at the top, a nearly perfect 99%. The difference here isn't just a few percentage points. It's like they're playing a completely different sport. And this chart makes it even more obvious. I mean, look at that gap. Sure, some tools can trick the weaker, free online detectors. That's easy. But when they go up against the industry standard, the one that really counts, most of them just fall apart. It really proves that not all humanizers are built the same. In fact, most aren't even in the same league. So, why? Why is there such a massive performance gap? Well, it goes right back to that science we talked about. Most of these failing tools are just doing a simple find and replace. They're swapping out synonyms. But that does nothing to change the boring sentence rhythm or the predictable structure. It doesn't fix the low burstiness or the low perplexity. It's like putting a fancy hat on a robot. It's still just a robot. So seeing this huge difference in performance, it kind of forces us to ask a better question. Maybe, just maybe, the goal shouldn't be about beating the scanner. Maybe there's a much smarter way to figure out if one of these tools is actually any good. This quote from researcher Anangsha Alamian just hits the nail on the head. She says, "After testing 30-plus AI humanizers over the last year, I stopped caring about one thing almost entirely: detector scores." And that right there, that signals a huge shift in how we should think about this. It's realizing that chasing a perfect human score is pointless if the tool butchers your original message to get there. So instead, we should use what you could call a meaning-first framework. This approach judges a tool not just on whether it can fool a detector, but on the quality of what it spits out. Does it actually keep your original meaning intact? Can you control the voice? Does it actually make the text easier to read? And here's a big one. How much time do you have to spend fixing weird sentences, or even worse, factual errors it introduced? These are the questions that really matter. You see? This completely reframes the goal. We're moving away from this cat and mouse game of trying to trick a machine, and we're moving toward using a tool to genuinely improve our own work. The focus is now on making your writing clearer, higher quality, and more authentic for whoever is going to read it. Okay, so with this new philosophy, how should we actually be using these tools in 2026 to get the best results? Let me tell you, it is not a one-click fix. It's all about having a smart workflow. Here's a solid 5-step process. 1. Get your initial draft from an AI writer. 2. Run that draft through a high-quality humanizer, one that actually restructures sentences. Now, step 3 is the most important part. You take over. Read it out loud. Does anything sound weird or clunky? Fix it. Step 4, add your voice, your stories, your unique insights. This is what makes it yours. And finally, do one last review for flow and logic. The tool is your assistant, not the author. You are always the author. And of course, we have to talk about using these tools the right way. This part is non-negotiable. First, you absolutely have to know your school's or your company's policy on AI. Second, remember that these tools are for refining your writing, not for replacing your thinking. The core arguments, the big ideas, those have to come from you. And finally, if you're ever in doubt about anything, just ask. Transparency is always, always the best move. All of this kind of leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. The whole conversation is changing. It's not really about can AI write like a human anymore. It's about how we, as people, partner with these incredibly powerful new tools. And that forces us to ask a much bigger, much deeper question. In an age where AI is everywhere, what does it even mean for our writing to be authentic?